Hello, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Beyond the Summit presentation of the BTS Americas Series number 3. We're going to be going into the third game of the third match of round 1 here in the tournament. We're going to be looking at Leviathan versus Team Freedom, with both teams taking it 1-1. We got to see a really strong Team Freedom dominate the map, control early game for their first game, and pretty much win from there with a lot of good tempo behind them. But the second game went very differently. We got to see Leviathan get involved in a lot of fights early on, and throughout that mid game just start to really break things back with some tremendous skill usage. So we got to see them carry their way to victory in style, and now we'll have to see what Team Freedom are going to answer back with going into Game 3. First and foremost, it's going to be a Slark ban.
10 seconds remaining.
Yeah, that's really weird. I don't know the last time I've first of all seen Slark, nor was it in the first phase, so...
Dire team ban.
Really interesting stuff. Also, a Gyro picked up in the first phase, and then a Brewmaster picked up in the first phase. Very weird picks coming out from these teams, but can't fault the Lone Druid pickup here for Team Freedom.
Yeah, of course, creates a lot of value for the lineup as a whole. Is going to allow them to really build, push momentum. This is a hero you can't pick off as easily as before, where you just kill him or his bear once or twice and you take him out of the picture. No, he's got that Savage Roar. He's going to be able to tank through it. He's going to be able to disengage from it, bring in a solid support, and bring some pain. So overall, Lone Druid just is in a really good spot as far as how he's able to farm his jungle, how he's able to push lanes, and just in general how he comes online before the team has means to deal with him. But we are going to be seeing him in this off-lane role, it looks like, for IX Mike. Any thoughts on the safe lane Druid versus the off-lane one?
Reserve time.
I don't know, I always thought that the safe lane was a bit stronger right now just because, like, guaranteeing him farm, it's really easy for him to transition to the jungle and let us support farm it. But I think just because of the strength of the Savage Roar spell being implemented, it makes it almost impossible to kill him. And then if he is able to somehow get level 5, if you have weak supports in that lane, then he just wins it. So if he's able to have a good start, and then you can exploit the fact that maybe their safe lane is not as strong, or the other support's helping out mid, or if they do for like a dual lane off lane, a dual lane mid sort of thing, and then you get if you get into the situation where you're off lane against a solo hero, it's just ridiculously strong and difficult to box him out. So
reserve time.
To answer your question right now, I would say off lane's probably stronger, just because of that Savage Roar.
Sure enough. So one thing I like is that Leviathan answered back with the Brewmaster here. The Drunken Haze and the Cyclone are great tools against the Spirit Bear in general. It's actually really good against Gyrocopter too. He's a hero that doesn't really get to do half as much damage when that Drunken Haze is on him, and usually forces him to either use a BKB at an in suboptimal time or get a Mantis tile early on to deal with it. MKB, of course, the long-term solution, but not something that you're going to see rushed on a hero that also needs survivability when you're up against heroes like OD. So yeah, and all in all, I think the Team Freedom are going to need a number of items to come online. At about 20-minute mark, that's going to be when they start really hitting their stride for now. Leviathan, every time they have their ultimates, long cooldowns here between Primal Split and Sandy's Eclipse, they're going to be able to kind of take control of the map, especially when Brew has that Blink Dagger. But as far as laning the Brewmaster, I think Shibby has picked it up more often than anybody on the side of Leviathan. Mid-Brew, do you think that's the play?
Well, I was actually going to ask you, because I don't know these players in terms of what they do that much, but I would figure just because of the good performance Shibby had on OD, and I feel like he plays it probably more than Boris is my guess, that he would still be on the OD, and they would run like a Jenkins Brewmaster. Do you know if he plays it off lane a lot? Because I feel like that might fit this a little bit better.
I believe he has played it in the off lane, but I don't think that it's like a common pickup for him by any stretch. But as you said, we've been seeing it more in the off lane than anywhere else. Like, actually not today. They played on first Smash, and they pick it for him in the off lane all the time. So just looking over at his Brewmaster statistics, he only has 12 games on record, Jenkins that is, but he does have a 67% win rate, so pretty solid if they are able to take it there. And then, of course, he's contributing with his spells no matter how much farm he gets.
It's funny because there's always so much commentary on this hero in the last year where, you know, remember he was very, very strong and picked up often. And the first thing of people saying, why is he picked so much for mid, for example? And it's, well, he's a great laner and hard to kill. I feel like if you ask someone now, why isn't he picked up so much for mid anymore? Well, he's a bad laner in mid and he's easy to kill. I've heard both of those things, and not really too much has been changed with regard to his power in lane. He is still very difficult to kill in mid, and he's still got very good attack animation and good spell to nuke out creep. So if you're competent with the hero and you can play him mid, then all the power to you. But I don't... You know what, you're right. I feel like Shibby did play that a lot when it was popular in mid, so maybe we could see him play that, and maybe we could see the OD being played by Boris. We don't know quite yet here until the 5th pick. It's still crazy to me, especially the fact that MDL just happened and the popularity that Venge had specifically in that tournament, that we're seeing a 4th pick Venge and a first ban Slark. It's just very interesting to me. I feel like Venge is a powerhouse right now, has been for quite some time. I haven't seen it, you know what, I think I've seen it once in a pro game. But the change to the Ag Scepter with Venge as a support specifically is so good. I don't know if you had a chance to play around with that, but I am a big fan of that. The fact that you can retain your auras, you can instantly swap as soon as your real Venge dies, and it lasts the entire time, either until it dies or you respawn.
Yeah.
And then because you have the Ags, it still reduces your spawn's reduction of the swap as well, so it's a 10-second swap.
10 seconds remaining.
Fan of it, it still retains the auras. So say you went for like a, you know, max
remaining.
aura build, and then obviously you're gonna have max aura before you get the Ags anyway, so that's not an issue. But say you went for like a Vlad's, you're still gonna retain the auras attached to the hero onto your, you know, your spawn or whatever you want to call it, and your illusion. I'm a big fan of it. It would be cool to see it, but.
Yeah, one weakness to it I would have to say is that it's still technically classified as an illusion. I feel like that's something that maybe you can make it work like the clones of the new hero Arc Warden. Because right now, all you have to do is hit a Hex on it, mana drain, anything like that, and you instantly kill the illusion, and it's not really all that valuable anymore. Because it's able to cast spells, it feels like it should have some permanence, but in fact it is a glorified illusion that is able to do all the spell casting. So that's the only drawback I have for it, but unless Puck picks up a Sheepstick in this draft, it doesn't really have too much of an issue. But again, these are mid to late game items for a hero that isn't going to really get that much farm priority.
You do bring up a good point in the fact that as you say, it is an illusion. The disruptor is actually quite good against that because the glimpse will just destroy that. So yeah, there is that, of course, but I have played around with it, and I think it's not only fun but also very, very effective. Also because the biggest thing too is that a lot of people just don't even expect it. They're like, "What the hell? I thought you were dead. Now I'm getting swapped back even further every 10 seconds. I'm getting stunned, and then you know, it just gives you a whole new arsenal of spells. I would love to see it, but. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, other things like Force Staff are good, Medallion, Solar Crest, things like that, but we'll see how the game goes. Maybe he can humor me a little bit.
Yeah. One thing that I really like about this draft is that you still don't know what to expect from Leviathan's last pick here. Like, they ban out the Bounty Hunter, thinking it's going to be a safe lane Venge and mid OD and off lane Brew, and that definitely can happen, but it's not clear cut one way or another. The Venge is flexible, the Brewmaster is flexible, and that alone creates a little bit of uncertainty for Team Freedom. Are they going to have to worry about early push? Like, this could easily be a pushing support. This could be a hero that knocks down towers, Chen, and Enchantress Enchantress was knocked out early, but Chen is still in the pool, and there's other supports, so Jakiro comes to mind, that are great at knocking down towers too. So if you want an aggressive support combo that can push early with the Venge, you've got it. And then the Venge can go for those core items, as mentioned. The Vengeance Sword is actually really good for the Brewmaster's ultimate, as well as for the OD, both of them just getting a lot out of their base damage value. So I would not be surprised to see a core Venge here, and obviously that's why Freedom are banning out the Bounty Hunter.
The other thing to think about too with aspect of the Vengeance Aura is that say you do swap someone out and at the start of a fight they use everything on the Venge and he dies, he applies that negative debuff to, I guess negative debuff would be redundant, but just a debuff of the Vengeance Aura to not only the Lone Druid and his barrier, but Gyrocopter too. Oh, and everybody that's around, so it's a very, very good debuff that people don't think about too much, but it's 36%. That's a sizable amount. damage is being taken away. So Juggernaut here, last pick here for Leviathan. I really have been liking their drafts this series. I'm a big fan.
Really solid overall. You could see the potential value of the first draft, and then the second one very clearly got to display it. And now in this third one, I do think that there's some good confidence potential in it. They got to force a lot of bans out of their opponents that you wouldn't. They didn't actually need. Like, they got the Skywrath ban and the Bounty Hunter ban. Yes, Skywrath is good with the quick silence on the puck or things of that nature, but it's not a hero that they had to pick to really make their lineup work for them in Phase 2. And the Bounty Hunter, again, it's the ambiguity of their lineup in terms of their roles that gets that Bounty Hunter ban out. So they get a high priority here like Juggernaut here as the final pick, and as a whole, it just feels like all of their entire lineup just seems to work, to mesh. And yeah, we're back to the Winter Wyvern support, which some will consider potentially less effective. But in this case, if you have a druid attacking himself with a bear or something of that nature, just with one Winter's Curse, then you're going to actually see a lot of value with this hero. So the fact that you're able to Cold Embrace what was originally a lot of physical damage, now you can see the clearly transitioned back over to magical because of they're going up against Wyvern. But I feel like just the value the Wyvern has in terms of the spell usage we saw in game number 2, as well as kind of turning the draft and forcing a lot different heroes to go up against. I feel like already the Wyvern is showing its value for Leviathan in particular. Not for every team in Dota 2. It's not going to become the new metagame thing, but it is going to work for them.
I'm wondering how much Farm Eagle can muster up this game, or even Nushan, because I feel like they're lacking a bit of a mech hero, and they have this great idea with being able to just run people down in team fights with very good early spells from Venge and good spells from Juggernaut with a healing ward behind him, and then, you know, the Brewmaster, who's much better early than late. But they don't really have a mech carrier, which concerns me a little bit, because the fact that Team Freedom, they last picked this Lion, they have a lot of burst potential, so if they take someone out at the beginning of a fight, say a Panda, the fight's pretty much, I mean, it's close to over, because they have a lot of heroes that can fight for a long time too, similar to last game where Leviathan wanted to extend the team fights with the Slark and the OD and the Earth Spirit. I think that's kind of more the route here for Team Freedom. I think they do have burst potential, but Lone Druid can fight for a long time. Puck can definitely fight for a long time. He's thought of as actually a more bursty hero, but for instance, if you watch the way like Sumail plays Puck, he's one that comes to mind. Is he'll use all his spells. It's not just about the coil. It's blinking in there, using the silence and then the orb, getting out, and then just waiting for the cooldowns. They're not very long. I'm going to go over them real fast, but it's 11 seconds on the orb and 13 for the Waning Rift, pretty much in conjunction, similar to like a Tiny, actually.
Yeah.
Very, very similar amounts of damage, similar amounts of AoE, except this one gets you away, too, with the orb. So, in that sense, Puck is very good at long, extended team fights. So is Gyro, with the Rocket Barrage and things like that. So I think Team Freedom also has a good balance in their draft, and I would say of the 3 games, this is their best draft yet. Okay. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll have to see how they build off of that. Obviously, the Druid can't be completely shut down here, nor should he. I mean, the Arctic Burn is really annoying for the Spirit Bear, but you're still going to be able to do, for the most part, pull the Creep Wave back at least once. He's got a good ward down already by having TP'd up to the top lane. So I think that he's going to have some confidence to get at least the early Iron Talon and kind of go from there. But you talked about not having a good natural mech carrier on Leviathan, and I was considering the possibility. I've only seen it like twice since the rework, so it's obviously he's so much more right-click dependent, but there is a possibility of going for the mechanism on the OD. You talked about sustained damage, which kind of nullifies that line of thought, but is there a possibility that Shibby goes for the mech anyways?
I don't think so. I think that's just an outdated bulletin. Not to say that it can't work, but I just, in his mindset, I don't think that's what he's thinking about right now. Sure. Although he could, who knows? I just think mech would synergize really well with what they want to do in this lineup. Then again, you know, the thing about Venge is she provides most carries on her team the ability to go late. Like the first game we saw Invoker, who's not.
That could have been a lot. If Mike walked up right when they were right, that would have been such a disgusting first blood. Of course, the bear summon comes out in the fountain, so we'd only be down for about 45 seconds after the horn as far as the bear summon goes, but it still just completely changes the scope of the early game. But Yeah, it's one. Of course, like you look at how OD synergizes with Dazzle, where like just a shallow grave can allow him to get that many more hits out and get that damage out. You can kind of look at mechanism for that, but again, you were talking about all these little items that the OD can pick up, but then it fills up your inventory slots really quickly. So you'd have to sub out the drum for the mechanism and all these other little things, and it can be kind of quite chaotic. We're actually going to see that Spirit Bear try to do Spirit Bear things, and it looks like he'll succeed, but take half the bear's health and damage as a result.
I thought that was funny. Sunbee ended up he used the orb and then timed it so he could pick up the rune and then go to his orb to get back to his mid lane to block as soon as possible, even though he had his ally blocking for him, so I thought that was kind of interesting. Little bit of a waste of mana there, and in fact, the OD had a better block anyway in mid, so just kind of a funny thing to start out here for mid.
Would you say it's like a solo queue play? Like you're just so used to kind of doing things for yourself one way or another?
I guess I've actually never even seen someone do that in solo queues, because I guess he'd still only ended up losing like 50 mana, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But you know, every bit kind of helps. Anyway, not the end of the world. It was just a funny thing to note. There's an uphill ward here for the OD, which is significantly going to help him because running up to try to get those astrals can be really finicky with the uphill vision. So the fact that he has that now, it's going to make it much easier for him to lane, which is actually a pretty good lane for Puck. Everyone still has the mindset that OD kind of controls most lanes now, but in, like, say, levels 1 through 4 or 5, he's much weaker than the old OD in terms of laning, just because the Astral is so much better for that, anyway. But the fact that he's having this uphill ward, has had a pretty good start, very, very good for him, because I think Puck actually is very comfortable in this lane. Yeah.
Another thing about the OD matchup is the phase shift against the Arcane Orb. It's like, as long as you have that available, you should be able to really limit the value of OD's early orb action, and we'll see that most likely. He doesn't phase shift anything here, actually. He's just going to jaunt to the high ground and go ahead and disengage from there. He's really poor, though, as far as his health pool goes. Like, he's going to chew through all these tangos, and then he'll be still dependent on that bottle delivery as soon as possible.
The problem, too, is he needs a salve, but he doesn't want to bring it out because it's going to hurt his timing of his bottle. Yeah. It's going to make it so that when he brings the courier all the way up for his health pot, chances are he's going to have enough for the bottle by the time the courier gets back anyway, so it's not efficient use of the courier. So it's a really awkward position that he's in right now. And if he does get quick CS, so he ends up remedying that problem. Good for him, but it could have been worse.
Most definitely. So bottle on its way, but I really do have to look at these early roaming of the Wyvern as well as the Vengeful Spirit. Like a Boots first Venge, you know she's going to be ganking lanes, and even coming out from the fog to get that stun was very characteristic of that. But to have this Winter Wyvern get involved as well is really showing some either respect for Sunbee or actually some hate on the Puck in general. Just knowing that if they can start snowballing the OD forward, that they can take the mid game very handily.
Yep. Unfortunately, there's very little experience on this Venge, and by little I mean absolutely nothing. But that will improve here, although he's not going to get all these creeps, and he's sharing some of them with Eagle, so he's still going to be level 1 for quite some time. That's a bit concerning, but very early on, everything can change with one solo kill.
Yeah, like the one thing is, a lot of people think that in order to be relevant, a support has to be like getting levels as much as possible. To even like, obviously, a lot of the more casual players or the lower MMR players will be leeching from their carries and trying to get as much experience for themselves as possible. But in reality, if you can be a level 2 support with a level 6 carry, you have significantly more kill potential than with like 2 level 4 heroes. Just enable your heroes with the setup. The magic missile, even at level 1, should do the trick as long as he finds himself in the right position. So while it looks bleak now, I have a feeling that it's going to turn around pretty quickly, especially as they make a move together. The Winter Wyvern and the Venge again off the map, again making their move. Though, unfortunately for them, Sunbee just got an Invis. And as I look at that, Brewmaster gets caught out. That's a glimpse back on him. Or not even. It's just the kinetic field coming out, and Gyrocopter clears him up. But Sunbee gets the orb away, even pops his Invis rune, and maybe he looks to go for that second engagement. Like you said, a short cooldown on the orb, so they're just going to pincer in on Nusham, and this should be the second kill for them, trying to survive, but they orb right on top of them. And that is going to be a really good start for Freedom.
There's a little bit of a battle here bottom between Jenkins and Mineski, but because the creep wave was coming, they had to fall back. Jenkins only has 4 CS compared to 20 here for IX Mike in the respective offlane. Obviously, they've given him the D ward, so he's able to get some neutral creeps to skew that number just a bit. But like we said, he's level 5. It's very, very good for him.
Yeah, Jenkins is going to be in some real trouble now, taking a lot of magical burst damage, and there's going to be the flak. He doesn't put it on the Brewmaster, he puts it on the other heroes, and that's going to allow him to do more damage across the board. We do see an okay Splinter Blast coming through, but in the end, the Brewmaster still falls, and this is occupying all of Leviathan's support backbone. They're going to be kind of tri-laning down here and leaving the Juggernaut just to 1v1 the Bear, which is exactly what IX Mike wants.
Yeah, and it's against a Jug, which I was going to mention this too. Jug was always seen as, sorry, Lone Druid, when he wasn't as popular, was always seen as the, well, he's not very good, but we can pick him up if, you know, the other team picks Jug. This was back over a year ago, January of last year, when Jug was picked up all the time. I don't know if you remember that whole meta game, but and EG would pick up Lone Druid in response specifically to the Juggernaut. So you have to be. That is the one thing about this last pick Jug that's a little strange coming out from Team Leviathan, is the fact that Lone Druid being so tanky himself and then being able to split up the attacks from the Omni Slash with his Bear. It's somewhat of a counter to Jug in that sense. So yeah,
if you can actually get the Battle Cry off during the Juggernaut ultimate and just have the Bear and the Druid soak it up, there's almost no value in that ulti. So. We're going to have to probably see some more rotations. Jenkins gets the clap. This should actually be setting up something good on the Gyrocopter. There are some creeps. They'll just spin him down. And actually misses a little bit on some ticks here. He's going to dodge the Earth Spike, but that's just going to set up the kill on Jenkins. And Boris doesn't have the mana for the Omni. A very odd decision there at the last moment. And now without a spin, he spins back into his own demise. That's going to be 2 more kills on the board for Freedom. And Leviathan's lineup, I feel, has a dependence on momentum. They can do so much when they have a net worth advantage, when they're getting good farm on this Brewmaster, but with 7 last hits on Jenkins and no real value found in this Iron Talon as of yet, I feel like Leviathan are going to be struggling.
Yeah, and just to reiterate one more time, I think that this is still the best draft that Team Freedom has drafted this series. And I think draft aside in this entire series, it's really come down to play, in my opinion. It's not really like one of the teams completely outdrafted the other, and then there's nothing that the other team can do unless they play perfectly and their team doesn't play. I think they've had pretty equal drafts, this being the best one for Team Freedom, but play and personal play has really dictated who's coming out on top in pretty much the entirety of each game. And right now, with a very good start here from Team Freedom 5-0, they're playing very, very well. They're dewarding when they need to. They're moving around their carry top when they need to. They're playing around the botched cooldowns and spells of Team Leviathan so far. And I'm interested to see how the I guess the only rough lane in the beginning was the Puck versus OD, where I thought that Puck would have a better time. But I mean, Puck hasn't died yet. He's still got 1,000 gold, and if he wants to rush the Blink, he's not too far away from it. So yeah, things are looking real good for Team Freedom. You
still pretty much always see the treads, maybe even the wand before the Blink Dagger. I feel like that extra intelligence gives you a lot of value in terms of getting that second volley of spells off, and of course just in general to survive throughout the fight. So although he definitely has the option to go for that Blink Rush, I think that he's much more likely to just consider building his core up here. In this case, he doesn't really have to go and be like a YOLO initiator that just gets the opening for his teammates. He can be just kind of a concrete hero that's in the midst of the engagements.
Yeah, for me personally, I always love going treads before Blink. It's just an OCD thing with me, I think, but I really see nothing wrong with rushing the Blink before treads. Just because you're always going to have a bottle up on Puck anyway, going in there casting all your spells. That extra attack speed is really negligible in my opinion, at least in the early stages of the game, and then the difference of the int to strength or whatever you have in between is really not... obviously it's great, don't get me wrong, but it's not 100% necessary. So if he doesn't go for it, and he hasn't bought his treads yet now, so it leads me to believe that it is going to be a rushed Blink. Could also be a Midas.
Oh, please no. I mean, he has 1,600 Blink
It's actually
gold,
not bad on Puck.
Yeah, we could agree to disagree on that one. I don't want to go too far into it, but
I don't think... I would say 8 times out of 10 to not go Midas.
So Dire
Radiant's top
do
tower
smoke,
is
I
under
think, a
attack.
vision in this point. They're still going to try to go for it onto the Juggernaut, but he just walks out, still gets the glimpse, but out of the Static Storm, he's able to cast some spells. No Entangle as of yet. Under tower, he's taking a lot of damage, can't get the Omni Slash off. Mike is going to go down to Nusham, but that is still a very nice kill exchange that could have just been a walk away. They could have wasted their smoke, wasted their ultimates, and that would have been
Radiant's
freebies
middle tower
for
is under
Leviathan,
attack.
but no, they fight it. They get obliterated without
bottom
getting the
tower
Omni,
is under attack.
and that is going to be a, once again, happy Team Freedom.
Yep. The problem with a hero like Panda is that this is a hero you said it. It's like right now he feels like he has to go offlane, but I feel like you can't afford to do that most of the time unless you really help him out.
Yeah, I used to, like, when we saw the Brewmaster nerf, the one that reduced his armor from 4 to 2 and his Thunderclap slow duration was reduced, that's when offlane stopped working for Brewmaster unless he got help, in my mind. So you get, like, a Lich Sacrifice, an Earthshaker Fisher Block, something to allow him to get his first few levels, and yeah, he'll be okay. But in his current state, if he's going to be just kind of thrown to the wolves, you have to play him impeccably. And we are going to see Sunbee complete that Blink Dagger here in his Fountain. Does just rush it out right. The reason that I'm a little caught off guard by this is you look at his skill build. When you're straight up rushing Blink on Brown Boots, you want max Waning Rift. That's going to be the most value against the Brew. That's going to be just the most value for the reinitiation. But we're going to see initiation down bottom as stuns come out hard onto the Lion. So he's going to be going down to them, and we'll look back up. OD caught out. Self-Imprisontment's not going to do enough as they'll just surround him and finish him off. Great kill here for Team Freedom. Even though Leviathan were the ones to drop the split, they got a kill on Lion, but OD just obviously more valuable even though the net worth disparity is there.
Yep, and they did get the tower.
Okay.
So
So
let me check. No, it was not nice, so yeah.
So if you take it all into consideration, it's a little bit of space for Juggernaut, the tower, and a slightly unfavorable trade, would you say that Leviathan are willing to take that?
I think it's okay. Like, even if it's hero for hero, like, whenever you're down, if it's your core, you generally want to take trades. You generally want to split, and that's usually okay when you're down in terms of net worth and whatnot. And it's not an insurmountable lead right now. It's only 3,000. So, I think right now you're concerned that the Lone Druid's getting a really good time compared to Jenkins on the Panda, who is still quite a ways away from that Blink, and that's what I was gonna add on to. I was lagging a bit. That on heroes that are so important to have initiation. Oh, Eagle. Speaking of initiation, he does get the Cold Embrace off for a little bit of time, buying himself some time. Oh. And Jabay just says, no, I ain't dealing with any of that.
Tell them I said.
Tired of the nonsense from the last Winter Wyvern, getting so many random the Winter's Curse out on the bounty hunter. He's just like, here's a little bit of vengeance right up yours. But we'll see a flank to gank here. Boris not really ready to go toe-to-toe with the bear.
Jenkins caught again.
Oh no, that's going to be just a quick kinetic field static storm, and they will clean him up without really committing anything.
It was really good teamwork and communication by between Fun and Sunby. They both went at the same time. He went back in with the Blink Silence, and they might even go a third time here onto Eagle, who was dead the first time.
Yeah,
which would be very, very just demoralizing, if anything.
Yeah, they're just scouting him out just now, and now as soon as they get the Thunderstrike on him, he's a dead man walking, but flying through the trees, he won't have to worry about it. And it's actually going to be fun. That drops really low here. Can the OD close the distance, though? Popping the drum, getting the MS, Fun just going for the Fog TP, will be prisoned, and he will be killed off.
I think he was trying to go for that, hey, maybe Shibby will Astral himself kind of play, because he was like right on top of him. But trying to get the unforced air. Get it.
So 4,000 net worth favoring Freedom, 5,000 experience, and Leviathan looking for the way back in. Jenkins does not have Blink for another 1,200. What do you do in the meantime? Do you just spread the map hard on the Juggernaut and maybe take a tier 1 somewhere else? Or do you just have to avoid, get wards up and avoid confrontation at all? What is that Midas?
You could still, that's a Midas Unvenge.
That is a Midas Unvenge.
I mean, Nusham's done really, he also has treads too. He's really farmed. Interesting skill build, though. I don't really know if I agree with it, but still, he's very, very farmed. That's the bottom line for him. He's had a great series. Even in the game, the bottom game where he had that mech, and he still had, I think, a positive score when it turned real sour real fast. They, I guess, anticipate this to go really late. I don't think that it will, so I don't know, but Shibby getting caught out here. Static Storm is expended.
So just harassment as an end result here. They expend the Static Storm. He doesn't get the self-imprison off quickly enough, so that's going to definitely impact the OD for the next minute or so, but as a whole, it's not changing his current state of affairs. We're going to see they actually group up. Are they looking for something? There is a smoke, but look at their mana, look at their health. It might actually turn against them. We'll have to see. For now, they're not actually going to pop the smoke. They're walking past observer wards left and right, and it just feels like Leviathan don't have a game plan moving forward. They're just kind of covering their asses, making sure that they don't get exposed to a quick blink initiation like we saw so many times in game 1. But as a whole, Leviathan are only getting farm on 2 heroes at this particular moment.
It's also interesting that Boris has. I feel like I've never seen this, at least in the this last meta, with Jug picked up a little here and there, but he's gone for the full points, full 4 points in the healing ward. Yet he is not really kind of staying around his team. He's still kind of playing split push.
Sure.
He's got 3k gold and he's not buying anything yet, so if it was a Battle Fury, I think he's unnecessarily holding on to his gold.
Yeah, I think that's either a weird way to build or it is going to be a Radiance. Oh, but actually maybe comes back. It's an old build.
Really?
It could be. You never know.
Oh my god. I think that's probably the worst build. I feel like if he went just Dagon, it would be better.
Just very delayed on his item
see,
pickups.
he is gonna go for a Battle Fury, so I don't understand the holding of the gold. I mean, he is using a lot of item slots right now, but you could benefit from a Perseverance or even a Claymore.
I don't think anybody will disagree with you, but Shibby is going to be caught out here just trying to stack up some Ancients for his good old Battle Fury buddy. We're going to actually see the glimpse back as well on the Brewmaster, who has to split in. Interestingly enough, is caught with the glimpse and the split at the same time, but we are going to be seeing still this Earth Panda stick around a little bit long, and we're going to see the Winter's Curse. Why are they expending so much for a fight that isn't really working in their favor? We're going to see the Lion at least picked off on the back end, but Puck will be able to disengage, and that's going to be that. That is everything in the book Leviathan had available, sans the Omni Slash, and they get a Lion out of it.
They've got very farmed horse on the side of Team Freedom, though. Again, now that's a trade where you don't want to take that. Like, this OD is dying. He's died twice already. He's not getting enough. They're still far on the blink. No, I guess they're not far on the blink dagger from Jenkins, but you saw right there, even with the ultimate, I guess the Venge wasn't quite in the vicinity, so he wasn't benefiting from the aura. But even if he was, it's only level 1 anyway. But man,
just
Lucian just wants to play carry.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we didn't get to see much value there, mostly just because it was such a defensive position. I didn't really have high expectations for that one way or another, and it's just going to be when he gets that blink clap and he actually has his team behind him that we really get to see some value in it rather than just a panic button. But finally, the Juggernaut still, like, we talked about it already, and we even had some jokes about Radiance, but in the end, why has he held his gold in his inventory so long? Is he trying to deceive them into thinking this Juggernaut's really underfarmed? He doesn't have any items. I don't.
No, there's absolutely no point to deceive someone unless you were going to go for like a Lothar's, or maybe like sometimes I've seen people trying to deceive that exact mindset you just outlined of like a Spectre. Like, oh wow, Spectre has no farm, and then oh wow, he just haunted with Radiance. Like that can actually catch you off guard. But that is like the only instance I feel like where it could, other than like I said, a Lothar's. But he's not going for either of those. And even if he went for a ridiculous Radiance, it would just not only be A, bad, but B, you're not catching anyone off guard with that.
This is the most common item. It's picked up 100% of Chinese Juggernaut games. It is common timing. They know he's been farming. He's still sitting in stash. To
build onto that point, though, is it doesn't. it's not congruent with the fact that he went for 4 points to a healing ward. I don't think you want to go battle, like, alright, I got my battle fury, let's go fight.
Good Cold Embrace to keep Jenkins up a little bit, but there's so much magical damage, he still doesn't get the split off. Still, they want to try to go for the team fight, and I don't think they're finding anything. Boris can go completely solo with no backup whatsoever, but that's pretty much his only option, and even that, they're too quick for him. So Boris with only phase boots coming to the fight, and just not able to really get anything back the other way. Yes, the glimpse finds the pickoff. The Finger of Death is used, but now Gyrocopter walks into another opportunity, and this is not a low damage Omni Slash. It's going to be enough to bring down the Lion, but now Boris is going to spin without a TP, trying to go on the run. He's got the backup from Shibi, going to be using his drums, using his hits, but not enough to bring down the Gyrocopter. Sunbee's going to actually get caught in the imprisonment, but he's got backup from his friends. Ix Mike finally entering the fray with the Radiance Burn, and that's going to be turned the other way with a very nice Winter's Curse from Eagle. Glimpse onto Shibi, kills him off in the end, and Jenkins, he's going to still keep going. This was a very interesting choice, but
ooh,
the Savage Roar
really nice
negates it in
Savage
the end.
Roar. Yeah.
But I love the timing, but what would that split actually have done in that case?
I think it may have gotten the kill. The Jug was still kind of in the vicinity. It might have. But I was thinking the same thing, like, maybe he doesn't even get something with this, because Londra is quite tanky. Did he have his little battle cry up? No, he didn't. But still, he's quite tanky. But yeah, with this, I guess the good thing is that now that he does have this battle fury, this is a massive stack.
Yeah,
going
that's where Healing Ward certainly
Venge,
helps.
Venge is, yeah, Venge is going to come over, give him a nice... is he not going to do it? I thought Venge was walking down there and then to help him out.
Venge is farming, dude.
God,
This is a Midas Vengeful Spirit.
Like,
oh gosh. They've got so much
AoE
AoE
control.
control
This is game breaking. It's extremely bad for Leviathan.
Okay, this is 100% agreed. They don't have their Winter's Curse. They don't have their Omni Slash.
Oh my God,
they don't have their
so
Ancients.
bad.
There's not even somebody on the high ground to leech it. Like, it's just gone. They know that if they get the enemy catches sight of them, they just get glimpsed back and killed. So they can't even contest this territory in the slightest. That, like, I don't want to say the game is over, but the net worth swing we're about to see, if they get Roshan as well, is going to be massive. And that was Leviathan's bank account that just got completely plundered.
Yeah, oh boy, that's backbreaking.
Chica's going to come in here, pop the split against the call down. They're going to see the swap back on Ix Mike. He will be going down very early, but can they focus down the other core? Gyrocopter is still alive, but we're going to see a 1-for-1 as the Omni Slash comes out against the Lion, and the Juggernaut falls thereafter. But very fast movement speed on this Gyrocopter speeds him away. That SNY phase boots, and some great play from the puck, really just wrangling them and making sure there's nothing more to this confrontation. Fun will try to get the jump away, and looks like a pat on the back will be all that he receives, but at least they prevented the Roshan. They have no split, no Omni, but they do have the Winter's Curse and the Sanity. So all in all, I would have to say that this Rosh is still Leviathan's, at least in their court.
Here we go with Puck, another initiation. Maybe get out, maybe not get out. Be okay for the time being. This is a good thing that Leviathan do have actually Rosh power with the Venge, so even though the fact that they can't do it, they're threatening to do it. So that kind of makes Team Free to move around in situations where maybe they might not want to. Mineski kind of playing around with Jenkins. There's a Hex, Blink Hex coming in onto him, and it's done, and Jenkins is maybe bit off more than he can chew. And he does fall to the finger there of Jupe.
And the important thing is this high ground ward. The Radiant had full vision of Leviathan's retreat. They knew that he was completely solo. They saw the Venge run north. They saw the Wyvern run east. They knew that there was no backup, so they just go in. Instead of the Gyrocopter just running for his life and losing a lot of HP, they just give him a freebie and walk into the pit.
Maybe they couldn't have fought a full fight in Roshan anyway if Free just went in there, because the split's got a pretty long cooldown. They did have the OD ulti, so it's debatable. They did not have the Omni Slash, so but that's still not a position that you kind of want to put yourself in if you're the Panda. He's given up way too much, unfortunately, and has not given his team enough. With 0, 6, and 2 as his box score, I mean, Nusha, he's level 12. He's actually extended his lead over that of his own offlaner. Look at this farm.
It is.
This guy has been on a farming spree today.
So I have to talk a little bit. Right now, we know where the game's at. It's very clear to the viewers, 16-8, massive net worth and experience, the Aegis in the hands of the Gyro. But let's talk about where we're going to be. We've got a Midas on both the Winter Wyvern and the Vengeful Spirit now. The Battle Fury on the Juggernaut, and they still got all their tier 2s. Is there a road for Leviathan to kind of drag this game out longer and longer, or do they just not have the abilities to turtle on the high ground?
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
Well, I would say that their abilities to turtle on high ground are pretty bad compared to what they had in the Ember Spirit and Zeus game. Like, very, very bad compared to that. But their ability to still team fight if they actually get their spells off before they get picked off like this.
Radiant's
Like, if they,
top
like
tower
right now, I
is
just see a
under
Hex
attack.
here, and that's a possibly dead Nushan before anything happens. As I'm spiking a bit there, but yeah.
Dire's bottom tower is under
Unfortunate.
attack.
The
With
bear
that-
does
with
take a
those
lot
kind
of...
of
Radiant's
Sorry?
middle tower is under attack.
engagements, yeah, those kind of engagements when you're not ready as a team, it's over. There's nothing you can do about it. And I think, like I said, they're in comparison to their first game where they have the Zeus. Still, oh, you're a buyback though.
Yep, they're trying to commit for this. The Vengeful Spirits bought back. The Panda had some issues with the Radiance blink, but finally gets his spells off and is trying to just cycle on the Bear. We're seeing a lot of abilities thrown out to disable, but not a lot to deal damage. Finally, that Omni Slash comes through, nearly kills off the Disruptor. It looks like he should go down. Yes, he'll be actually hit by the Sanities while Boris runs away, spin and running, and there's going to be the Cold Embrace to keep him up. Great synergy there is going to keep him alive and get him out. The Gyrocopter will fall, and they'll look to clean him up as well. They've got a Magic Missile. He's got no BKB, but it looks like Nushan's on the same page as his teammates, and now there's going to be a stun, now there's going to be a finger, now there's going to be a call down, and a triple kill for Mineski Fanboy. He's going in, he's doing massive work, and it just seems like they tried to, there was some miscommunication for sure, and it just, like, they had so many different things in that fight separating off their kill targets. Like, they had Disables on the one of the Western heroes with the Winter's Curse, they had the Cyclone on the Bear. You take them out of the fight, but you still have to deal the damage. And with a Sunny's Eclipse on just the Disruptor, I just don't feel like you're going to get enough.
You're certainly not, and they just all kind of limped away there with really low HP. Really nice re-initiation there at the end there from Jubei with a great stun by helping out his buddy, and then still having the call down up ready to go. I mean, fantastic series here from Mineski. And again, Juggernaut I just don't really... I'm not full agreement with this build, with what his team has. It's kind of like you want to make sure that your build works with what the team's game plan is, or what even your personal game plan. So like you could say the team game plan is group up and fight with Venge and Panda split and all that's kind of stuff. As we see Eagle in a little bit of trouble. Oh.
They get to go back on Eagle, so it should be going down. Cold Embrace is going to hold it, and the same with the Prison. But we've got backup. We've got Gyrocopter mobilizing. They've got the double coil. Even with the BKB pop, Gyrocopter is very confident here. Swap back. Nusham's now in some real trouble, and it looks like he'll be going down just outside his base as the Bear continues to chase. But we do have a buyback on the Winter Wyvern, trying to find his target of choice, and an Omni Slash actually comes through here, trying to do damage to the Gyrocopter, but Boris just can't get enough done. He's got the items to farm, not to fight. He needs backup from his teammates. More Splitter Blasts, but right now it's the Winter's Curse to hold Gyro in place. They'll get the Intelligent Steals despite the Hex, and there's going to be a big kinetic static onto two. Nusham and Chibi completely helpless inside that combo, and it's going to be the spin from Boris that finally brings Gyrocopter down, but it will cost Boris his life as he gets entangled. Nice damage in an AoE from Eagle, but it's not going to be enough for Boris to get any kills. He's still going to be going down, and they're still going to be jumping forward here onto Eagle, trying to get the fourth kill, but Jenkins smacks him down with a big blink flap. Now going to be disabled, now being run down, and the coil's already back up. A 75-second cooldown that started this fight is back up as the fight continues to extend and the Bear continues to radiate. That's going to be a full 5-man wipe, plus the Winter Wyvern die backing this with this second death.
I guess the good thing, if there is anything there for Leviathan, is that Jug got a lot of gold from that kill onto the gyro. But by the way, that's a pretty cool combo. The Savage Roar with the puck coil. He made him just run right out of it and stunned him. I don't know if that was the intention of the draft, but it certainly worked really nicely.
Yeah, the classic
could have been even better though. But Puck was about to reinitiate during the kinetic field, and unfortunately got his blink canceled by the wave from Venge, so he actually missed out on what could have been like, I think, a 3 or 4 man silence there. Still was able to take that fight handily.
Yeah, absolutely. And now it's just questioning, like, what can Leviathan do? They've got Midases on supports. They've got this Battle Fear on Jug that he really hasn't been able to do much with. I mean, 179 crepes is okay for some games, but for this game, he needs to be far and beyond 250. He just is so, his team is so dependent on him really building himself up. I mean, the Brewmaster is pretty much as good as he can be. He'll get the Vlads in 700 gold, and that's pretty much all the items he can really look for this game. But everybody else is just looking for more. The OD right now has no real items to supplement his damage output. No Blink, no Atos even. It's just an awkward position for him, I would say.
I 100% agree with this BKB, though. I think without it, he's just toast and can't do anything in a fight. All of, not only the damage is magical, but the thing that they have in terms of keeping you down, like, is all mitigated from BKB. So that's all fine and dandy, but like you mentioned, it's kind of hard for him to maneuver. There's no real target right off the bat that you can eliminate that gets you a clear win in the fight. So they're in a rough spot.
Just going to try to hold the bear down for now. Going to be the Drunken Haze as well as just long-range damage to bring him down, while Boris goes ahead and just farms up top lane, farms up creep, and heads on home. But all in all, we were talking a little bit about their turtle power, their ability to hold on the high ground. So far, the Drunken Haze buys them time to damage the bear sufficiently that Ix Mike pulls it back. And I think later in the game, I'm not sure if Venge goes for the BKB for the reasons you mentioned before, or actually goes into the Aghanims, which you're talking about in the draft. But Aghanims does allow you to swap the bear, and I think that that's a key difference between a support Venge who just can only pull a hero out of position and one who can pull out the primary Sieger for freedom.
The thing about Axe is I think it's generally better when you're not going for any other items at all, because you don't benefit from, like, I believe you don't benefit from damage items or even movement speed items. I could be wrong on that, and because it seems like whenever you have those kind of items, for instance, that like the Midas, you attack extremely slowly, and you don't get the stats from any of those things. So generally, if you go for the Ags, you just want to go for the flat Ags and maybe some aura items like Vlads, but it's probably the BKB for the reasons that we mentioned, that the OD needs it, or needed it. And that's all fine and dandy. The Jug is definitely going to need it too, but he went for a Yasha, so it's going to be a little bit of time if he wants to get that BKB. There's still hope. Like, this is why the Venge pick is so strong, is that when they're fighting in a team fight, and if no one gets picked off right away, the Auras just buff up the rest of his team so much, and these heroes really benefit from it. Both the, as you mentioned, the Pandas, the Juggernaut specifically, and even the OD still benefits from all this. And of course, if she dies, that, you know, puts the debuff on everybody too. If they don't have this Venge, I don't think there's a chance. But because they have the Venge, and because they are building this Vlad relatively soon for Brew, there is some hope. But the net worth is starting to get kind of ridiculous here. The disparity.
And no Venge is going to be exactly true, as we do see Sunbee takes the aura for the team, and otherwise the Venge will be going down. The Roshan should be following suit very quickly here. I guess Sunbee probably stays out to make sure he doesn't emanate that aura, but it's still going to be a fairly quick Roshan without him.
Yep, and an AC on the bear too. Ix Mike's had a really good game.
Vlad's AC, Radiance, it's everything you'd want, honestly.
Roshan has fallen to the Radiant.
So, interesting question for you. We've seen it, I've only seen it, I think, once or twice in competitive, usually when the game goes later. But I played around with it myself just because it's kind of clowny. Boots of Travel's on the bear. It has mana, it can TP, you can recall it back immediately. How do you feel about the global presence of the Spirit Bear?
I think you can do just fine with a couple of TP scrolls. If I'm gonna have Boots of Travel, I'm just gonna put it on my hero. But I wouldn't. I mean, if you really had enough gold, then sure. I do like the Boots of Travel on your hero plus Ags, for instance, on the Spirit Bear, because then you can really get into some fun Dorian kind of things. But that's all luxury.
Sure, sure. Just an interesting thought, but what we have to think about now is Leviathan's way to kill this gyrocopter. I mean, this guy has an Aegis, he has lifesteal, he has an 8-second BKB, and now this butterfly. There's no Monkey Hingbar anytime soon for the hard right clickers. Rod of Atos, it would be a band-aid fix situationally, but it's not an item that you're going to see even on the OD with his deficit. He looks to be going for Hex to try to go and just push Gyrocopter away from the fight, as they've been kind of doing. Their team fights have been all about just kind of disabling people, tossing them aside, and focusing on one target. And while that's all well and good, eventually they have to address that Gyrocopter, and I'm not sure they have a way right now.
It's just getting to the point of the game where even though Leviathan have the heroes and the tools to actually take a fight, theoretically, they're just at such a deficit that there's really, like, even if they played it perfectly and say Team Freedom played it as horribly as possible, there's just not a way. They just don't have the items. They just don't have the firepower. And sometimes, it's hard to say and it's hard to hear, but in those situations, you have, sometimes even, sometimes you have to just give up Iraqs, and you have to find a way that it's the X factor is just Aegis. Like you just simply can't deal with that in some circumstances.
Well,
and that's how important the Aegis is in later stages of the game.
It's true, but I mean, 2 minutes out of the 5 have passed without really any direct confrontation from Freedom. They haven't bulldozed down a lane. They've just been kind of saying, okay, well, we can spread and control the map. If we see anybody, we go kill them very quickly. But for the most part, it's Leviathan that are afraid to go and farm because they're up against abilities like Glimpse, and they don't really have any great way of taking care of the ward situation. We do see there's one ward in their base, there's one ward towards the mid lane. It's just, it's obviously Freedom's map, but I guess in about a minute and a half, they're going to be looking to go back to the high ground once more in the mid lane.
Yep. And there's really nothing for Freedom to fear. Like, there's no amount of split pushing that can come out fast enough, and yeah, they can't beat a little druid. So.
There's going to be a glimpse back on the OD. That's going to be taking Battle Fight completely. Now it's a 5v4. They just walk up to the high ground, drop the flak, go for the racks, and they just have to sacrifice this. Anybody who stays out dies, and we're going to see that prove true very quickly if Boris doesn't disengage with his BKB. Now it's going to be Francis taking a lot of damage, but again, he has that Aegis, is happy to pop it to turn this back around. Juggernaut's used everything, Brewmaster's used just about everything, and they're not going to keep going. I'm quite surprised if they back off here. They'll wait for the next creep wave. They will go back in, and this should be Leviathan's make or break time period here. We're going to have to see some amazing damage from Shibby, but he has yet to gain a single Arcane Orb stack, so no, just back it up. This is not a defensible position.
There's no reason to be fearful. There's no split, there's no Omni Slash. Yes, there's an OD ulti, but it doesn't really do that much damage at this stage. It's not even level 16.
Jumping in, we're going to see a great BKB from Shibby, but Cold Embrace nevertheless. I'm not so sure about that one. He's going to be now stunned up, unable to do any damage during it, but gets one swing off and then heads back. Jenkins very low on HP, swapping in the Gyrocopter into a bad position, but that Butterfly is fluttering! He's fluttering away, he has no evasion right now, and they'll just right-click him down. Huck will do a lot of damage in the process, trying to finish Shibby, but Shibby self-imprisoned, so the Brew is the only casualty so far. Radiance, I don't think it's going to be enough here, as the Bear has to fall back. And the Gyrocopter actually pulled out into a bad position. And, I mean, talk to me about that flutter. He's already got Phase, Sanj, and Yasha, and yet he tries to bail himself out through the Butterfly.
Well, the big auto attacker was the Jug, and since he was spinning, he's
looks like they lost
not really doing any auto attacks. It's still a completely one fight here for... Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah. Just a little bit.
Test?
Yeah,
okay.
you're okay.
Okay. Yeah, the spin came out here from the Jug, so the auto attacks weren't really coming out. This is my thinking from him, but still a ridiculously good fight there for Team Freedom.
Yeah, I mean, great that they got the mid racks, but the bottom racks I feel like is something that they didn't need to actually push, and they did give a lot of gold back the other way with that final kill. I mean, the Gyrocopter himself gave 660 gold to Juggernaut, so it's not insane, but the assist gold spread among 5 heroes was still quite substantial. They move up one set of items, but at the cost of the racks. You're right, Freedom did win out, but Leviathan might have just a little bit of new hope in their eyes with some new items being picked up very shortly. We'll see if they can make use of it.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm trying to give the hope. I've tried to see the silver lining here. They lost a lot, but they're about to find a Gyrocopter, and he's going to BKB Flutter again, and it looks like he will be okay with 600 HP remaining. And up top,
that was an Omni and a Brewmaster split for nothing.
And now what does the Bear have to be afraid of?
So as far as the hope... Absolutely nothing. Sunbee's getting stunned here a little bit. Very nice stun timing there from Jubei. And Jenkins will fall again. He's actually got the lowest net worth in the entire game. And as he does get fingered, some more damage. Lots of misses coming out, but suddenly he finally gets the final auto attack there.
Eagle's gonna delay his death, but I think they still see him. They still will be able to kill him. It's just gonna take a little bit longer. And now they have a 5 versus 3 here on the map. Gyrocopter needs to lifesteal a bit, but he's still got it. He's still up and kicking. They're gonna start breaking the high ground up on the top lane. If this final set of racks falls, I don't care how many Battle Furies Juggernaut buys, there's no way for Leviathan to bring this one back.
Yeah, there's just not too much gold here on the side of Leviathan. Not much more to say about that. As the Satanic Gear is popped from Gyrocopter.
He's got the full HP. He's not afraid of anything. And we see here Shibby's like pretty much in desperation mode. They're going to try to make the jump, try to go onto the puck. A very difficult target to pin down. They're going on the Lion now, wasting so much time for their BKBs. And the Gyrocopter is just going to go ham on them. Massive damage coming out from Freedom, wiping out Leviathan. Buybacks trying to keep themselves in, but their last lives are taken from them, and their life here in the BTS Americas Series number 3 will be taken as well. Elimination for Leviathan, victory for Freedom, advancing to round 2.
Yeah, and I said this earlier, but I'll reiterate that I think this series was all about play. Like, drafting versus play, who won with which thing, and I think this was all play. I think the drafts were actually fine from every game. There was no clear outdraft, in my opinion, but this game, I think it's both a combination of some weird plays from the... This game, I say specifically the off lane, they just got nothing on this Brew. Jenkins had an amazing game in Game 2 with the Pudge, but was unable to get anything done here with the Brew. I would say that's maybe a little bit of a drafting thing, just because when you have such an important initiator on your team, you need to prioritize farm on them. Like, whether you put him in the safe lane like you did for Sunbee in Game 1 with the Slardar, or whether it's this game Brewmaster getting attention, initiators always need to have the most important start. In this game, he had one of the worst start in this team, so that's what needed to change here for Leviathan. Yeah,
I mean, the end result for him was 228 GPM. He tried to use the best he could with the Iron Talon, but just all of his movements there in the early game just didn't pay off for him. The Blink Dagger came out really late by comparison to all the major items for Team Freedom. And even though he did get a split off every fight, it's not like there was a game where he kept on getting chain silenced or chronoed and killed off before the split. He got to contribute to every fight. It just wasn't the impact that he needed to have. And across the board, that also comes down to like the Venge and Wyvern going for these mid to late game items that did get them some progression. I mean, we got to see a Helmet Diameter BKB on Venge, got to see the Blink Ether on the Wyvern, but it just all didn't amount to enough when they were losing the entire map. Sure, you get resources through the Hand of Money, but both jungles were constantly being farmed by Freedom, as well as all the lanes. Leviathan were backs against the wall from a very early time period where they couldn't spread out beyond 3 heroes whatsoever. And while you say that the drafts were pretty balanced out, I have to say that Team Freedom were able to execute their draft the exact way that it needed to be, with the Disruptor putting the pick-off pressure out and Team Freedom just spreading and opening up the map for themselves. The Ike Spike got a lot done, and they really were able to balance out the farm and their cores very effectively as well.
Yeah, I guess the final thing I'll say is that if I was a lone Druid player, I'd feel pretty good about a last pick Juggernaut, because not only did they not really pursue the issue of shutting him down in the offlane, but then they even left him there solo for a little bit, and lone Druid had already hit like 5 at that moment. I mean, Boris, yes, was level 6, but you have to be really fearful of that entangle when you're a melee hero. Not to mention that I said before that Lone Druid's kind of a counter to Jug, and the fact that they 5th picked that into a first pick Lone Druid is very strange.
Yeah, not the optimal matchup. Still, they tried to do the best they could with it, and in the end it fell short. That is right. Leviathan will be eliminated here from the BTS Americas number 3, as it is a single elimination best-of-3 format, but we're going to be seeing Team Freedom going down the road a little bit more, and they're actually going to be facing the winner of our next match, which is going to be double checking here just to be sure, but it is going to be none other than Shazam and Balrog. So this is going to be a very interesting series, which is going to be coming up as soon as possible, as we're already 11 minutes behind schedule. Thank you guys once again for tuning in. I myself am Blaze. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the play-by-play commentary. If you did, hit me up at BlazeCasting. If you didn't, throw some flames my way. I don't care. I want to improve, and I want you guys to have the best experience possible here on BTS. And of course, shout out to my wonderful co-caster here, Tralf at Tralf Dota, bringing the NA analysis from across the way, and very happy to have you on the show, man.
I just saw that picture that you posted there. That was from like 4 years ago or something.
Right?
Thank you for having me on. Yeah.
Good times. All right, well, short break coming up, guys, and we'll see the best of 3 series between Shazam and Balrog very shortly. Thanks once again.